Welcome to tonight's show. So let's jump in. There is so much going on, so much good news in the house. So I'm going to jump in today into MicroStrategy's Bitcoin model. We're going to talk about the surges and inflows going into the ETFs over the last 3 weeks. Standard Charter has a new prediction for Bitcoin, and when they talk, people listen. So we're going to talk about their prediction. And then there are trade deals going on between the UK and the US. We're going to hit that. We're going to hit a little bit of China and what's going on with China and the US coming up in Switzerland starting tomorrow, some trade negotiations and state level adoption on Bitcoin. So let's jump in. There are predictions at the end of the year that are coming from some conservative banks at $200,000 Bitcoin. So let's jump in right now. So first off, MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin playbook. We've got obviously the king of Bitcoin here, which is Strategy. They own 2.6% of the supply, and they are coming out with a new playbook, kind of a revised playbook, let's say. The CEO, Fong Li, recently said they're creating a Bitcoin playbook to help other companies do the same thing they're doing, and it's free and it's open to anyone else. Now, they've been showing the playbook in 2024, but they're calling it the Bitcoin Standard Model, and they're continuing to put this in place to make it even easier for companies. Not totally new news, but a new slant on it. So the $330 billion Bitcoin wave, what's happening with this? This is a analyst. It's a company called Bernstein. They've been around for the last 50 years. So they're not a slouch. They have $700 billion in assets under management. So they are a legit organization and they do heavy research. And so they're looking at the corporate adoption strategy of Bitcoin, and they're making some predictions of what could happen by the year 2030. And what they're saying is by the year 2030, we could potentially have $330 billion of Bitcoin being purchased by corporations. And so they break it down in this model of what the prediction is. Big companies with tons of cash that have no growth, they could add about 190 billion is what Bernstein's saying. Then you have companies that are fast growing small companies, and they could add like $11 billion in terms of buying 11 billion of Bitcoin. And then you have just big companies, like 10 big companies that they think might buy $5 billion each. And all of this could spark a massive adoption of Bitcoin, which we know is already happening with companies adopting the MicroStrategy playbook. How is Strategy doing it? Same old, same old. They're doing stock sales, meaning issuing stock, buying more Bitcoin. They're doing convertible notes. They borrow money and buy Bitcoin, and they have a suite of products like Strike and Strife that is getting more institutional adoption and getting more interest from pension funds and things like that. So they got their whole financial engineering game plan going. Their plan is for $84 billion worth of Bitcoin. So they modified their plan, about a week and a half ago, and they're going in for 84 billion in Bitcoin. So originally it was a $42 billion plan. Now it's 84 billion, and it could go even higher, which is pretty cool. TC, what's up? Brad, what's shaking? Is everybody excited? I mean, we got some good news in the marketplace today. I mean, Strategy's running, not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice in the show. Okay. But very, very exciting and interesting things happening. So that's all good news. The Bitcoin ETF boom, if you look at the inflows over the last 3 weeks, and now it's even higher, it's over $4 billion. That's super exciting. So you got big investors getting in, like banks and funds. They're buying for real, and that's a good sign. BlackRock has now become the new behemoth, I should say. They own now more Bitcoin than Strategy. They've got like $58 billion, $59 billion worth of Bitcoin now. So they keep buying, they keep gobbling it up, which is pretty freaking cool. What's up, Phil? How you doing, man? So that's freaking exciting. I'm on the East Coast now, so I've changed locations, not in California right now. But in any case, they own over 614,000 Bitcoin, which is what BlackRock's got. So next price target that the buzz is going in the marketplace that the next price target, and I'll give you a specific source here, is 200,000 for Bitcoin, says Standard Chartered Bank. So that's their price prediction this year by the end of the year in 2025. Why is this important? We know price predictions are thrown around like crazy all the time. They tend to be a more conservative organization. Been around for years. I think they've been around for, if I look it up, I think they've been around for 150 years, is it? Let's just look real quick. I think they've been around for a long, long time. So standard chartered existence. I'm pretty sure, I'm going from memory here, but let's take a look. Yeah, since 1853, they've been around. So 170 years. So they've got operations in 50 plus countries. So when you look at their length and their longevity, they're not around because, you know, they're throwing around just loose predictions on things. And when they make predictions on things, they're typically more conservative because they have clients and people that are governments and large institutions that they do business with, and they got to be more conservative, pension funds, etc. So when they talk about a $200,000 prediction and they're saying that being a more conservative organization, I'm perking up and listening. So that's exciting. A lot of what they think is big money from the ETFs that's coming in. Obviously, we have companies like Strategy that are buying more, and we even have countries and state governments jumping in. So that's pretty cool. The big news of New Hampshire that was released days ago, everybody's aware of it, but that's very, very big news and bullish as well, even though we have other states that denied their Bitcoin, their strategic Bitcoin reserve. Like Florida said no last week. Arizona came close, but then their governor came in and gave it the kibosh and was like, not happening. So, you know, we have some states adopting, one state adopting like New Hampshire. You know, we have Texas, and I'm not sure if the news came in on Texas yet or when it's coming in, but it looks like it's going to be a go for Texas. So we've got good news on the state front as well. So there's just good news all around. The feeling is very good and the sentiment is good of what's happening in the marketplace. I'm sure you can all see it by how MSTR is running. And the trade deals are a big deal as well. So Trump's coming to negotiations with UK. And so the US and the UK are making trade deals. And then tomorrow, we have China and the US. We have representatives from both countries meeting in Switzerland from May 9th to May 12th. And so China's coming to the table and they're willing to negotiate, which is good. Their basic feeling on it is that, hey, the US needs to lower the tariffs first for us to be willing to, you know, do something about this. But there will be a deal made, I'm sure. And it looks like the tariffs might go down from like 145 down to 50. So, you know, 145% tariffs are pretty stiff, right? So it looks like they might go down to around 50% in some ways, in some areas. So that's bullish news as well. So all around, it's looking freaking good. How are you guys feeling about it? Feeling pretty good about it? I'm feeling really good about MSTR. Feeling really good about Bitcoin. What do you think? Anybody got predictions on when Bitcoin's going to hit a new all-time high? What do you think? Put it in the chat box. When do you think this is happening? So this is good. If you're just joining us, quick recap. I think the bullish news of the day is a bank called Standard Chartered, which is very conservative, thinks Bitcoin's going to hit 200,000 by the end of the year. So that's cool. And that's a good sign when you have conservative, larger institutions saying that who are trusted. So that's pretty sweet. And if Bitcoin hits 200,000, what could happen for strategy? You know, when Bitcoin hit 109,000 and change or whatever it hit its all-time high. And by the way, it's been over 4 months since Bitcoin's been at its all-time high. So we've been going on 4 months waiting for a new all-time high. So I think we're due for a new all-time high soon. Not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice, but I think we're due for a new all-time high. And then you can make all kinds of predictions of where you think strategy is going to go in that time frame. We do know that strategy was at its height around 540, and that was after hours. And so Bitcoin at its height was around 109. So when you look at that comparison, strategy right now, after hours, strategy got as high as 417 that I saw today after hours. So there's big news happening in the marketplace right now with the news, with the announcement of trade negotiations going in place. It was good for the S&P 500. It was good for the NASDAQ. They all bumped up. So, and of course we saw Bitcoin cross $100,000. That's the big news. And Bitcoin went as high as 103,500 or something. Let's see what MSTR is after hours. Let's take a look here. What do we got? Anybody going to beat me to the punch on this? We had MSTR after hours, and we're sitting at, my guess is 420. Wow. MSTR is at 420 after hours right now. Okay. So it's sitting at 420, and that's freaking good. $420 for MSTR. So that's the news on that. And then finally, the basic trade deals with the UK are, lower tariffs on cars, easier shipping for US beef, planes, and goods, and faster customs between both countries. So the bottom line is, it looks good with negotiations. We know the tariffs caused a little bit of shakiness in the marketplace for a while, a little uncertainty, and people are coming to the table. UK and US are making deals, and China and the US look like they're going to make a deal. I can't imagine they're going to meet for a couple of days in Switzerland and not make a deal. All right, now gold. Let's talk about gold and how it correlates to Bitcoin. Gold is approximately has run up to 3,500, then it dropped back down. I don't know what it's at today, but gold's up over 30% this year, right? So, and Bitcoin's up what it's up this year, but not as high as gold. But if gold goes to $5,000, there are some predictions that Bitcoin could hit $285,000. And historically, when gold has run up, I think in 2022 and 2023, you have to fact check me on this, gold ran up about 25%, and then we saw what Bitcoin did around that period, or prior to the crash, right? So if we look at, let me get the exact data for you. So if we look at gold history right here, let me pull it up. Bitcoin will typically trail gold, and then it will go up. So the indicator of gold going up by 33% means that Bitcoin's trailing that, and Bitcoin could go way, way up. So that's a good sign and a good indicator for what's happening as well. So those are all good news on the forefront. If you guys have any news yourself, somebody says 420 is a good number, Phil says. Then we have Brad saying 420 is a good number. So there you go. And then Tony Troy saying, I think as long as the global M2 expands, Bitcoin goes up. Yes, it seems to be tracking that. So that seems to be a trend of it following the money supply. So we will see what happens with that as well. So in recap, here's the bottom line. All right. So number one, more and more people are following MSTR's playbook, and their CEO Fong Li came out and said, hey, we're revising it a little bit, and we're making it easier for companies to follow our playbook. The great thing about strategy is, like, they want the competition. So when strategy has competition, strategy wins. And that's the beautiful thing about it. So the more competition they get in the marketplace and the more companies that buy Bitcoin, the better strategy does, because as Bitcoin goes up, strategy does well. So they want competitors. So they're like, here's our playbook, copy our playbook. And they're booming and looking for corporate adoption. Then we have final recap. I'm just recapping everything we went through for those of you who just joined us. Then we have Bernstein, a well-trusted organization, 50 years in the making, 700 something billion dollars under asset, trusted by governments that they do research for, pension funds they do research for, predicting that $330 billion could be scooped up by corporations over the next 5 years. So heavy Bitcoin adoption. We know Strategy's playbook and what they're doing. They have the $84 billion plan now coming in place. We know that BlackRock is now winning the game. They're ahead of Strategy. Strategy owns 555,000 plus of Bitcoin. And now we've got BlackRock over 600,000, about 614,000 in Bitcoin. $4 billion have flown into the ETFs over the last 3 weeks. New Hampshire has adopted their strategic Bitcoin reserve, which is good news. Other states will follow. And then we've got trade deals going in and good negotiations going on between the US, and that's coming to a head too. So everything feels like we're coming to a precipice, and we're going on the run that everybody expected in 2025. Let me know what your thoughts are. I think we're going for all-time highs soon for Bitcoin. And that to me means that Strategy will get close to an all-time high. And I do think that Strategy will blow past the 540 all-time high that it had months and months and months back. So that's my idea on it. What's the potential of where we go in the future? You know, anything I'm saying is just my opinion, guys. So you got to do your own research on it. But I do think, as I've said months and months and months and months back, I have said that I do think strategy will blow past $1,000. So I think it will definitely, in my opinion, not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice, do your own research. This is just my opinion. I do think it's going to hit 800, and I do think it could blow past 1,000. And I do think there is a probability that strategy could go beyond 12, 1,300. And if you really want to get bullish on it, could it hit 2,000? It's possible. It's possible. Is that a longer stretch? Like, is it being very aggressive in the prediction? Yes. But is it possible? Yes. Do I think 1,000 is very aggressive? I don't. I think at $1,000 price point is aggressive. And do I think it's going to hit all-time highs again? I think for sure, in my opinion. Again, don't place any bets on what I'm saying. I'm just giving you my perspective. I also looked up the other day, guys, which is interesting. The first price point that I bought strategy at was $79. So, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I actually bought strategy in 2020. So the first shares I bought of strategy was in 2020. I don't even remember what the price was, but I didn't hold on to them. So I'm not really counting that. Okay. But I bought strategy again in 2024. Is the second time I bought it. And of course, I've been holding. And so that price point that I bought in at was $79. So there you have it. That's the news. That's the weather and the sports. And that's pretty cool, right? So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Comment in the box here, like it. And what do you think is going to happen this year with Bitcoin? What do you think is going to happen here with strategy? Of course, anybody else's comments are also not financial advice. It's just their opinions. And I hope this serves you guys. And I think we could be in for an exciting week. We already are, and an exciting weekend. So I hope that we continue to go up and rock it. And good for everybody who's been holding strong through the tough times, because that's the toughest time to do it. And then the other thing that I would say in closing on this is just a disclaimer on this of, you know, there's obviously these leveraged, you know, there's lots of leveraged products coming out. So you have Bitcoin, which is not a leveraged product, it's its pure form. But then you have strategy that buys Bitcoin, and then you have these other ETFs that are coming out. Like you have MSTU, you have MSTX. There's a new one that just came out that I won't even go into to give people misunderstood words. I don't want to give you misunderstood words, but there's another new one that came out. So there's obviously a lot of products that are coming out because people are bullish on strategy. And they think it's a great way to take advantage of the tons of money that's flowing into the marketplace. And so that's all well and good. And you've heard me on this show talk about MSTU, and I am a holder of it. But there's a point where you have to look at, when you're holding something like this, that it's very, 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 very risky. So I'll just give you my point of view in holding it. And this is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. But I am holding it. And the positions that I am holding right now that I bought recently are in the profits, and they're doing well, but they were very, very, very down when we dropped. And so anytime you have a leverage play like that, that goes up 2x, and that's it, that's what it claims it will do on a daily basis. It targets a 2x return on a daily basis. So it will go up 2x. When it goes up, but when it goes down, it goes down. And so when you go down 2x, right? So if you do the math and you have $100,000, and let's say strategy drops 10%. Well, if you own strategy at 100,000, it drops 10%, then you just went down by $10,000. So your 100,000 now is worth 90,000. And then when it goes back up 10%, your 90,000 is now worth 99,000, right? So when you go down 10% and up 10%, you don't quite get back up to, you know, the 100 grand. But when you look at this play with strategy going down 10%, and then a version like MSTU goes down 20%. And so if you held MSTU at 100,000 and went down 20%, you now drop down to 80,000. And then when you go back up 20%, you go back up to 96,000. So you don't quite catch up. Like strategy catches kind of up closer to its $100,000 mark. MSTU does not. It goes back up 20%, drops 20, goes back up 20, and you had 100,000. It doesn't regain. It goes to 96,000. So you keep having the ups and downs and the ups and downs and the ups and downs, and eventually the returns decay over time. So the longer you hold it, when you hold it, the longer you hold it, the more the returns are going to decay. So over time, you're not going to get that potential 2x. Over time, you're going to get less. Okay. But there is a point where you've got to pay attention. When I'll say for myself, because I'm not going to give advice on this, I'm looking at my own portfolio on this. And there is a point where when I invested a couple months ago into MSTU, that it will surpass MSTR. There's a specific price point that I have targeted based on my portfolio that when MSTR hits this price point, my holding with MSTU, the TX 2X will pass it and it will outperform it. And there is a price point where I'm looking, because I look at it and go, great. So when I do sell it out, it will be ahead of strategy based on my plan. Might not, but based on my plan, it'll be ahead. And it'll be ahead by enough to where I'll pay my taxes. Because if I had held strategy, I would have been at X. And if I held MSTU, I would have been X plus 30%. Just a hypothetical. Okay. So that's my play and my thinking of it, of how I'm doing it. And the goal is not to hold it for a long, long period of time. These types of leverage plays like MSTU are very, very risky. This is just educational, right? And one needs to really have a plan and know what they're doing. Otherwise, you could be sitting here and, strategy dumps 40% and your MSTU bag goes down 80%, like we saw happen recently, right? It went down worse. And so I held through all that and did not sell anything. I just held it. And now I've got a catch-up game to go. The great news is I'm in the profits, but I have a catch-up game to surpass MSTR. Okay. And it's playing catch-up because it went down. MSTR went down, came back up. MSTU went down by double, and it has to work more to get back up to even catch MSTR's returns at present. Make sense? So that's the danger where you hear in the marketplace people talking about the decay and the danger of holding these things. However, with my numbers and my forecast of where I think it's going to go, I will come out ahead of MSTR with this specific holding. Now, with that said, full disclaimer, my largest portion of my bag is MSTR first. Okay, that's what I hold the most in is MSTR, the pure form of MSTR. So anyway, like I like to take some risk, and I share these things, and I share them with like heavy disclaimers on there, because it's important to know if you're getting into something, just research it and look at the data. And yes, there's fees inside these in these products as well, but it's only designed for shorter term trading. And so one will likely not get a 2x over time unless all of a sudden you buy it. And we saw like when I bought into some, I bought into some in October. I've traded this a little bit too, just so you know. So I bought in and out of MSTU many, many times. And so when I bought back in September, I think it was for the first time, there was a rocket ride and that thing went up like ridiculous. Okay. So that is a potential benefit for it in a short period of time, but it's risky. And then when I bought back in again in a couple months ago when we had the crash, it did the opposite. So the September position went through the roof, and then buying back in recently, it did the exact opposite and went through the floor. But I held because I know the stock, and I believe I've known and just known, which is why I didn't sell anything through the crash that went down, that it's just that what MSTR is going to do this year. And with all of that said, just my personal point of view, to me, holding even all of MSTR and MSTU long-term, MSTU definitely not long-term, but holding MSTR even long-term and not taking profits, like that's not something that I'm going to do. I'm not willing to watch it run up to where I believe it's going to go this year and then run like all the way down. Okay. And since I've been holding it since 2024, I've watched the big runs up and the big runs down. And these are not, the one we just saw with MSTR 3 months ago is not new. If you held it in 2024, we watched that happen a couple times. So that 50% drop is not a new thing. So the stock moves in this volatile way, which is also the benefit of the upside gain, but it's also the the nerves that one could have to watch it go all the way down. And you just got to have one, very, very good knowledge on it and awareness of it. Two, go through your own observations of it. Like, three, I'm not giving any investment advice on this, just to observe it, know it, get educated on it. And then finally, one has to make their own decisions on what they think is going to happen and do what's best for oneself. And that's really it. But I will not be holding MSTR. I don't know what I'm going to do with the entire bag, but I will not be holding the entire bag all the way through the next 4 years. I've sat through the bull runs before. I first started buying Bitcoin in 2018. So I've experienced this. And so I'm not willing to ride all the way up and all the way down again, even though it probably makes the greatest sense over a 4-year period. And particularly Bitcoin, I will hold on to the majority of my Bitcoin. Particularly Bitcoin I'll hold on to, but MSTR is so volatile and it has the ability to go so high up and so high down that I don't want to see it go potentially to 800 and go back down to 200. I don't want to see it potentially go to 1200 and even crash back down to 600. Like, one could say that's a win I bought it at $79 and then I bought it at 80 something bucks and 100 something bucks and whatever, right? But most of my buys are early 2024 and some late 2024. So even so, like, if one's heavily in profits, who would want to see something go up so high and then drop by 100% or 50%, So that's just my personal point of view on it. Again, do what you think is the right thing and get educated on it. But that's just my personal viewpoint. So I hope it serves you guys. Chris R's MSTR is now 1,000. And then Troy is talking about CEP. CEP. I don't know enough about CEP, guys, so I can't give you, I haven't done the research enough. I've done enough research on MSTR, a ton. I've done enough research on Bitcoin. I've done enough research on MSTU. So I know those things. I have not done enough research on CEP. Even though I own it, I have not done enough research on it. So it's a new thing in the marketplace, and it seems like I think it's got a good future, but totally speculative at this point. Okay. So there you have it. So I hope it serves you. I'm very, very excited. How are you guys feeling? You guys excited? I'm really excited, right? Yeah. Troy says MSTU rebalances every night. That's exactly right. So MSTU is a very, very short-term hold. And I personally would not have bought into first I had to know Bitcoin in 2018 and learn all about that. Then in 2020, when I bought my first MSTR shares, I had to learn about that. And I was studying Saylor and learning about him. And then, I just got the bug in early 2024 I just knew what was going to happen with MSTR. I just knew. It just made sense to me. And so I know these things well. But when it comes to something new in the marketplace, or it comes to something that's very speculative, like an MSTU or CEPs new in the marketplace, we'll see what happens, I'll continue to watch it, study it. Yeah, I bought in for fun on CEP because I do believe in what they're doing, and I do believe in the concept, and I do believe that companies that adopt Bitcoin, even though they're doing it in a unique way, and they'll eventually CEP will become 21 once that deal goes through, if it hasn't gone through already. So it's exciting to see new things happening in the marketplace, and it's exciting to see that strategy has inspired a lot more companies to get in the game, and they're making their playbook fully transparent to people all over, and there's huge adoption coming in. So I couldn't be more bullish. I just couldn't be more bullish. I'm just super excited. And, even when things drop, like we went through, congrats to all of you. Kudos on just, staying with your convictions on it, because it's hard. We can all just sit here and be yippee and cheer on the way up. And hey, things are bullish again. But really, it's take a note. This is for me. I'm just giving myself advice. Taking a note. I've watched strategy intensely since February 2024. Bought in February 2024. Been watching how it moves. And we're at a point now to just take the lessons of how this thing moves and pay attention, And I am not anywhere near the profit taking place. I can tell you that much right now. Okay. I'm waiting for this baby to go. So it's exciting. You guys have a great. Do I buy anything speculative? Like, no, I'm not. I'm pretty much. I'm in my winners. I'm a big Bitcoin enthusiast. I'm a bigger MSTR enthusiast. I don't know how you couldn't be an MSTR enthusiast. Seriously, like, I just don't know. It's just like one of the most exciting things in the world of traditional finance merging with the crypto world to create a new revolution in finance. It's probably the coolest thing that's happened in money in the last 200 years, in my opinion. It's just amazing. So, and I don't, I think Saylor, I think their $84 billion plan could go over 100 billion or 124 billion. In the timeline, I don't know, but they got some firepower to buy some more. So this is just good. And I'm sticking with my, just the things that I know and the winners. And I don't want to, I'm not interested in trying to diversify my portfolio right now into a whole bunch of new things that are speculative. Like, I've got my bets, I'm in, I'm locked and loaded, Bitcoin strategy, boom, let's go. And of course I have some, MSCU is a risk play for me, but I feel like I know what I'm doing on that. And so I feel like that's going to be a big win too. And it's already winning for me. So that's good. So that's the story. Yeah. Troy says Bitcoin, Saylor are changing the world of finance. They sure freaking are, man. And I think it's just cool to, share this with friends. I have my friends calling me now like, oh my God, dude, you were so right. You're so right. Cause I just said to them, hold on, anyway, whatever I told them is what I told them. Right. But it's exciting. And I'm happy for everybody that's winning. And I'm happy for people that are getting knowledgeable on this. And I'm happy that we all get to share in this, because MSTR is talked about. But if you ask your local friend, or you ask people at your place of work, or you ask your average guy on the street, they don't know what MSTR is. They don't know. Kidding me? This is still a new thing coming in, and you've got long-standing financial advisors who have no idea what this thing is. They got their head in the sand. Oh, that's too risky. That thing's that. And sure, there's a risk associated with it, but the genius of what MSTR is just like, it's undeniable. If one just actually studies it, it's undeniable how genius it is. And things that are said about, there's been so many things that are said about MSTR that are just, many of them, you could take them one by one and just be like nonsense. So their strategy is good, no pun intended, but their strategy is solid. Saylor has stayed the course and stayed true to his word for the last 5 years. He continues to buy Bitcoin. He continues to inspire nation states and governments coming into this, and corporations. And, you got to take your hat off to somebody like that who's held the flag under all the scrutiny that he even went through in 2022, when things started to really drop and tank in 2021, the end. And he just held and maintained it. And you got to believe that guy had something to do with other institutions coming in, for sure. We know that, and larger countries and governments looking at this too, because he's a spokesperson for it. So I just think it's good to tell people to get knowledgeable on it, not to invest in it. Like, one should just get knowledgeable, and they should know what's going on, because if one doesn't know what's going on in the new economy, how do you win? And certainly the old rules aren't working, and they're just not. So anyway, I'm in the process. I have a book that's coming out. It'll be a surprise in about a month and a half on this whole evolution, and 2 months max, and I'll share it with you guys. Okay. So hope you guys are winning big. And somebody's talking about Metaplanet down there. Yep, I hear you on that. Another Bitcoin buyer, company that buys Bitcoin from Japan. And it's a great thing that we have going on here. It's a great community, and it's a special thing with what Saylor's doing. And Bitcoin's a very, 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 very special asset, like very special. And I think it's cool that people who are into gold are winning too. I think it's great that people who love gold are winning, and there's certainly a place for that asset depending on people's belief systems. It's of no interest to me whatsoever at all, like not in one iota. And I just know that we're a digital world. Like, we're in the speed economy. I was saying, talking to my girlfriend tonight, I'm like, we're actually in the speed economy. I feel like that's what we're in today. So if we're in the speed economy, like, old properties and 100-year-old, that 5,000-year-old properties just aren't going to cut it anymore, So we need to be evolving with the pace of where the economy and the world's going. And it's just so clear, written on the wall, that Bitcoin is the answer. It's like, that couldn't be any more clear, like that is like just clear. And then understanding strategy takes a little bit of, okay, what are they doing? How are they doing it? I don't understand how are they getting the money to buy Bitcoin? So one has to answer that question next, but one should get a really good understanding of Bitcoin first. And if one has a very solid understanding of Bitcoin, then you understand strategy, and then you just need to look up the terminology of what they're doing and how they're leveraging it to buy more Bitcoin, because they're just using traditional financial strategies that have been used for 100 years to acquire Bitcoin. I mean, doing convertible bonds and which is basically just borrowing money. A company borrowing money is not a new thing. They just borrow money to buy Bitcoin. Issuing more stock, issuing more shares is not a new thing. Companies do that shit all the time. These are not new things, right? But when you start having a company like Strategy that's now issuing these shares and they're doing something different with the money they're collecting, that's where it becomes new. And so there's a lot of misunderstoods out there in the marketplace of like, how are they doing this? Like, it's not worth anything. And how are they doing it? And they're diluting the shares every time they issue shares. And like, they're actually technically diluting the shares, but it's beneficial to the shareholders. And that's what people don't get. Like, if every time they dilute the shares, you get more Bitcoin per share that you own, that's a good thing. So every time you dilute the share, they dilute the shares because they issue more shares to get more money to buy more Bitcoin. So, okay, they dilute the shares. That is a good thing for you, because when those shares get diluted by issuing some paper that we pay money for, because that's all the stock is. Here's some paper, digital paper. We pay money for it. They take the money to buy Bitcoin. But that gives us, every single person who owns shares gets more Bitcoin per share. And if you did the chart and you projected it out over 4, 5, 6 years, Strategy will continue to acquire more Bitcoin per share. And if you look at it, it's pretty fascinating to see that you will get more and more and more and more and more Bitcoin per share, to the point where owning Strategy, you will hold indirectly a lot of Bitcoin. Make sense? And it's freaking amazing. So it's just damn genius, and I'm just excited to be benefiting from it. And I hope everybody wins from it. And I hope that the world, wakes up more to it and faster, because it's good for all of us. So hope that serves you guys. Have a great evening. If you're just joining us, you can catch the recap of it and the basic breakdown. But big things this year, big things. All right. Hope it serves you, and have a great night, and stay well and stay safe with your families. Cheers.